UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very good afternoon to you. Very good evening, I should say. Welcome back to GB News. Let's get you up to date with the headlines at 6 o'clock. The Defence Secretary has confirmed the government is exploring plans to expand the use of military sites to house asylum seekers. It comes after more than 1,000 migrants crossed the English Channel yesterday, taking the total number of illegal crossings so far this year to more than 30,000. Now, it's understood proposals to house migrants on military land will be announced within weeks. It follows a wave of protests outside asylum hotels over the summer, dozens of which are now set to be closed. John Healey has confirmed officials are also considering other types of non-military accommodation and says it's just one of a number of necessary measures.
No one part of this will solve the problem. It requires action on the gangs, action on the boats, action on processing any claims, action on negotiating agreements to return those who have no right to be here to other countries. We started to do all that. Good progress in the first year, but so much more to do.
The new Home Secretary says the number of small boat crossings in the Channel is utterly unacceptable, and she expects the first returns deal with France to take place imminently. Shabana Mahmood will this week host the so-called Five Eyes Security Alliance for talks on tackling people smuggling, her first major engagement as Home Secretary. Counterparts from the United States, Canada, Australia and New Zealand will meet this week in London. Sir Keir Starmer seeks to use his reshuffle to tighten the government's grip on immigration. It's been confirmed almost 900 protesters were arrested in Westminster yesterday during a demonstration in support of Palestine Action. The protest began peacefully, but violent clashes broke out around 3 o'clock when a large group of protesters who were not holding placards began to physically and verbally abuse officers making arrests. The majority of the number of people detained were for supporting a prescribed group, but a further 33 were held for allegedly assaulting those officers. The Met Police has condemned the abuse its officers have suffered. Now, just over an hour ago, millions of people across the UK will have received this. Well, actually, it was just over 3 hours ago at 3 o'clock. The alarm and vibration on your mobile for about 10 seconds. The second test of the National Emergency Alarm System. These passengers at Liverpool Street, though, appeared to get the warning at slightly different times. It's designed to let people know when there's imminent danger to life, like extreme weather events or a terror attack. It has been used 5 times for real warnings by the government, including in January during Storm Eowyn. That is it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 7 o'clock.
John Healey joins me now. Mr. Healey, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. The government's reset this week's gone terribly badly wrong. Morning. Angela Rayner has now resigned. I think the public is looking at this government thinking it's in complete chaos and crisis. It is, isn't it?
No, on the contrary, what's happened this week is that Angela Rayner has found she's broken the ministerial code. She's taken the decision to resign. That's the right thing to do, and it's a reflection of the higher standards that Keir Starmer has insisted on in public life, the strength of the independent advisor and the toughening of the ministerial code.
Hang on a minute.
These things always happen in government. The question is how you deal with them, and we've seen clean, swift, fair action taken, although it does mean that we've lost Angela Rayner, and I have to say any government is stronger if Angela Rayner is in it.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to just disagree with you on a couple of points there. Why does a former director of public prosecutions, a top lawyer, need to take legal advice on whether or not a deputy prime minister who's admitted to avoiding tax should or shouldn't be fired? Not only has he got legal training, but he's also, as he says himself, the son of a toolmaker, somebody who wants to lead a government of service. You've got his right-hand woman having admitted to avoiding tax at a time when this government is preparing to put up all of our taxes, including on property. He didn't need to take any advice. Any person watching GBNews could have advised him that she needed to go, and he didn't sack her. What does that say about his capacity to lead this government adequately?
So he toughened the rules, he raised the standards, he strengthened the independent advisor, he had that advisor do the job to establish the facts, and that was done within 2 days.
The Telegraph had established the facts.
It led. Well, it's important that there was an independent process to do that. It was important it was swift. It was. It was important that Angela Rayner respected the judgment, and she did, and she resigned. And now what Keir Starmer has done now is to use this to reshuffle his cabinet, to say to us all, you've got to go up a gear now in order to demonstrate the delivery that we've done over the last year can be taken further. And so on defence, you'll have seen in the last week the fact that we have won the biggest British warship contract ever. That's pumping £10 billion into the British economy, 4,000 jobs secured for the next 15 years, and you'll see more of that tomorrow when we launch the Defence Industrial Strategy, boosting British jobs, British innovation and British businesses right across the UK.
Tim Montgomery and I have just praised you for that contract. Actually, nobody seems to have any criticism of you in your role. But what I will say is this. The public sees the Prime Minister on Monday tell everybody how great his Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is. We're smashing the gangs. We're stopping the boats. By Friday, she's out of office. Shabana Mahmood has come in. Everyone's been switched around on this ministerial merry-go-round. It doesn't inspire confidence, does it? For the Prime Minister on Monday to say everything's going swimmingly well, I don't really have to reshuffle, and by Friday having teared up the entire contents of his cabinet papers.
Well, on Yvette Cooper, we've seen in this last year some important progress. 35,000 people deported from this country, higher than before, because they've got no right to be here. More than 300 raids on criminal networks by the National Crime Agency. And now, for the first time, illegal immigrants held, detained and ready to return to France because of what Yvette Cooper has been able to negotiate with the French government for the first time. So Shabana Mahmood has a lot more to do, and this will become a whole of government effort, not just something for the Home Office. And you'll see Keir Starmer say, look, military planners are now in alongside the Home Office, in Border Command, and also looking at sites sites that are military, sites that are not military, that may allow us to accelerate the closure of these expensive asylum hotels.
OK, do you know how many people crossed the channel illegally on Saturday?
I heard the number yesterday was about 1,000.
It's 1,096, as confirmed by Mark White, our Home Affairs editor. In what world is that smashing the gangs and stopping the boats? It's just all hollow rhetoric.
No one part of this will solve the problem. It requires action on the gangs, action on the boats, action on processing any claims, action on negotiating agreements to return those who have no right to be here to other countries. We started to do all that. Good progress in the first year, but so much more to do.
But you must admit, John Healey, come on, you're an honest broker here. We've had 23 resets of this government since Keir Starmer took power in various different guises. We've got this reshuffle, a sort of panic reshuffle in desperation. What does it say about the government, that what's been going on? You can't possibly be telling the GB News audience that the first year of Labour has been a success. It's been a succession of U-turns and disasters, hasn't it?
I have to tell you, I'm proud to have been part of what this Labour government has done in its first year. 4 million more NHS appointments, 500,000 more kids now getting free school meals, 3 million low-paid workers with a pay increase because of what we've done with the living wage. I was able to bring in the biggest armed forces pay increase for more than 20 years, and we're putting the biggest increase into defence spending now since the end of the Cold War. And we're doing this both to keep the country more secure, but also to make defence an engine for growth. You will see that. I've announced today the biggest skills defence programme for decades, and you'll see more tomorrow when we announce our plan to make Britain the best place to invest and grow a defence business.
I get it, John Healey. You're on a difficult broadcast round this morning after a disastrous week for the government, and I get the accentuation of the positive. Let's just look at some other figures. YouGov polling from August about Chancellor Rachel Reeves. How many people approve of what she's been doing? 16%, 1/6. Why wasn't she reshuffled out? The budget has been greeted with disdain by economists and businesses alike. We're now set for more tax rises. There's a giant, apparently, according to one think tank, £50 billion black hole in the budget of the Chancellor's making, and yet she's the one person who's safe from the reshuffle? What's going on here?
Rachel Reeves has been the foundation for many of the decisions taken over the last year. She's also been responsible for the stability that's seen the Bank of England cut interest rates 5 times in the last year, the rise in real wages, and as I say, the ability to give the lowest paid, 3 million of them, a double-digit increase in the living wage. These are
1 million more people on benefits without having to work in the last year. Talk of an IMF bailout. How on earth can you say the economy isn't growing and you're telling us it's all going swimmingly economically? Are you living in a parallel universe, John Healey?
People are starting to feel, but not yet convinced, that the cost of living pressures are relieving. They're starting to see action in the economy, and it's actually the case that Britain was the fastest growing G7 economy in the first 6 months of this year. So there is growth back in the economy after a decade of stagnant growth, but it needs more done on economic growth, and defence has got a big part to play, and I'm determined that we do that.
John Healey, well done on defence, well done on that contract. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. We'll be back with Kevin Hollinrake in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Joining me now is Kevin Hollinrake. He's the chairman of the Conservative Party. Lovely to see you this morning, Mr. Hollinrake. Thank you for your time. Let me ask you a question. There's been some criticism that Reform are doing a better job in opposition as the Tories. May I humbly suggest that in the last week, the Telegraph has done a better job in opposition than the Tories in exposing Angela Rayner's tax problems?
Well, if you cast your mind back a week, Camilla, all the headlines all talking about Angela Rayner on the basis that we'd asked for an independent investigation into her conduct and into what was actually happening with her tax affairs. So we've been on this story since May. We've been writing to various different people, including the independent advisor and the people in charge of who's registered on the electoral roll and HMRC. So you've been working on this very hard. And of course, the media play a very important role because that adds pressure, which then led to the investigation, which then led to Angela Rayner having to resign. So we're the only party who was interested in this, only political party. And indeed, we were told by many people, stop picking on Angela Rayner. There's nothing to see here. That didn't prove to be the case.
Having said that, Kemi Badenoch's performance at Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday could have been a lot better, couldn't it? I mean, people were saying she had an open goal. I mean, the goalie's off somewhere having a Lucozade. The goal is there, it is open, and she basically asks half a question about Angela Rayner. She's just not managing to sort of grip the need for her to absolutely hold the government's feet to the flames, is she?
Well, Kemi's been pushing this for months, and indeed the first question
she didn't on Wednesday.
The first question up, she said that the Prime Minister didn't have a backbone. If he did have, he would sack her. So she was very clear on that. It wasn't the only thing she talked about at Prime Minister's Questions, because there are many other things going on in this country right now that are not helping British people. You know, the way the economy is, the cost of living, unemployment, business confidence. These are things that people are interested in as well. So I think to use all 6 questions or something, just hammering on Angela Rayner, would have been the wrong thing to do. People have other priorities. Angela Rayner's story was very important. We pushed on it incessantly, and ultimately that's proved to have meant she's had to step down. And I say many people were telling us to stop, there's nothing to see here.
All right, but, you know, we had questions being asked on Wednesday as to whether Badenoch would go the distance in her role, let alone Angela Rayner. She seems to get less popular as she continues leading. Just 1 in 6 Britons, 16%, have a favourable opinion of her. That's on a par with Rachel Reeves right now, Kevin Hollinrake. This isn't great. You know, you want your leader of the opposition, particularly after a week of government calamity, to be soaring in popularity. She's tanking.
Well, the popularity will improve. Those polls will improve. That's part of my job and obviously Kemi's job to cut through and get our message through. What Kemi's decision was, instead of rushing policies out, when she took over last November, she would take the time to make sure those policies were deliverable. So that does take time, and she fully recognised that we have some promises before we did not deliver upon. We made those mistakes. She doesn't want to make those again, so it does take time. But I think you'll see over the next few weeks, so we get to our conference in the early part of October, you'll see that full range of policies, and people will see Kemi for what she is, the strongest, the most courageous and the most boldest person in politics, and that's what we need right now. At the end of the day, the facts of life are conservative. Kemi's a proper conservative.
Are you saying she's more courageous and bold than Farage?
I believe so, because
what evidence
it's very
is there for
courageous. The biggest, the most important, the greatest virtue, the greatest of all virtues is courage, because that guarantees all the rest. Yes, I believe she is. She's not willing to simply say what people want to hear. I think Nigel Farage, you know, has his strengths. He's a great performer, but in the past, and I think in the future, he'll simply tell people what they want to hear.
Well, hang on a minute. I mean, on the ECHR, for instance, Farage has said, look, we can't stop the boats until we come out of this thing. So we're going to come out of it. Badenoch said, oh, we need months to decide and we're going to get Lord Wolfson. You've had 14 years to decide whether the treaty's fit for purpose. You know it isn't, because immigration went up under the Tories exponentially, despite promises to the contrary. So what further is there to discuss?
Well, Camilla, you know that back in May, we announced our deportation bill that disapplied the European Convention on Human Rights to matters around immigration. So we've already made that announcement in terms of where it matters on small boats and in terms of other types of deportations. Now, there's some wider context around things like the European Convention on Human Rights. There are other points as well in terms of things like the Refugee Convention we need to look at. What Kemi's decided to do is consult the experts, not just jump to a cheap, easy headline, as others do.
I mean, you should know. You were in power for 14 years. Let's just move on from that and just look at things generally. You know, Nadine Dorries has defected to Reform, said the Tories are dead, which isn't exactly a ringing endorsement from a former culture secretary, somebody who was very close to the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Let's put it this way, Mr Hollinrake. No one's defecting to you right now, are they?
Well, you'll see over coming months, as we get a message through, more people join the Conservative cause, because more people will realise, yes, they need to have those strong borders and protect our borders, but also we need an economy that works, where we balance the books. If you look at what all the other parties are promising, they will all bankrupt this country. Tens of billions
Well, some people think that Liz Truss nearly bankrupted the country.
Tens of billions of pounds of unfunded spending promises. Kemi's a completely different kind of leader. She is responsible in the economy, but is strong enough to protect our borders and police our streets. That's what people want. It's not cheap, easy policies for cheap, easy headlines. It is properly thought out stuff that will be deliverable, that will be put into action.
All right, we've got some reports here that you as chairman and others are having to persuade, to beg people to come to party conference. One veteran MP said, I don't remember whips calling before like this. I was actually planning to go, but I think there is a concern that not many people will attend. Apparently, you've been pleading with MPs to go to your conference in Manchester because it threatens to be a bit of a damp squib.
That's a complete nonsense. I don't know where you get the story from. Of course, every year our whips tell us, we'd like you to come to conference. It's important. Our
It's
members
in the
go.
Independent, that story.
Lots of businesses go. We've got great attendance, excellent attendance for members of Parliament and for Conservative Party members and members of the business community, all of whom see Labour's promises were complete nonsense and they are bankrupt in their country and that business conferences dropped through the floor. What they know is that only the Conservative Party would rebuild confidence in our economy and put in place a framework which actually works for businesses, which creates jobs, which creates the economic dynamism we need to see in this economy, because that produces the taxes that pays for everything else.
What do you make of these rumours of there needing to be a Reform and Tory pact, of Boris Johnson being urged to unite with Nigel Farage by Nadine Dorries? There seems to be this growing sort of clamour around this idea that the Tories are now in such big trouble, tanking in the polls, that your survival basically depends on Reform rescuing you.
I mean, a pact with Reform is as likely as a pact with Jeremy Corbyn's government. Look at the spending plans that Reform have. £140 billion a year of annually tax and spending increases, tax cuts or spending increases, including on welfare, including things like the two-child benefit cap, scrapping that. It is just impossible to deliver on the Reform's tax and spending agenda. They know it. They are just saying things people want to hear. That's sort of reality. So there's no way in the world any responsible Conservative government could do a pact with a party like that.
All right, just on your idea about a mash-up with Jeremy Corbyn, some of your own One Nationers might quite enjoy that, Kevin Hollinrake.
I don't know anybody even back then who would enjoy a pact with Jeremy Corbyn, but certainly under Kemi Badenoch, you will not see one now.
I'm pulling your leg about lefty Tories. I'm being slightly harsh. Kevin Hollinrake, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, and good luck with your conference, which I will be attending with bells on, by the way. We're going to all of the conferences, except possibly the Liberal Democrats, but they don't seem to like coming on the show for some reason. I can't think why. Maybe one day we'll get Corbyn on the show. Give him a grilling. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Now, talking about grillings, I did speak to Zia Yusuf from Reform UK at the conference on Friday. Got a little bit heated at one point, and we'll be listening to that next. Don't go anywhere.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Looking ahead to the new working week, and it's going to be unsettled. Most of us seeing some further rain and showers, and after a warm weekend for some of us, temperatures are returning to nearer average. So we have low pressure really dominating the scene as we end the weekend. Still got some dry weather down towards the far southeast, but most of us seeing some showers. As the night goes on, showers generally becoming confined to western and northern parts of the UK, and quite a windy night to come across the very far northeast of Scotland. Where we do see the clearer skies, it will turn a little bit cooler than the night just gone, but I think most towns and cities still staying in double figures. So we start Monday off with plenty of sunshine across many parts of the UK. Still got the overnight rain just clearing Shetland, but for most of Scotland it should be dry. But showers will quickly develop across the west of Scotland. Also similar story for Northern Ireland. A few showers in the west, but mostly dry as we start Monday morning. Showers also moving in across parts of Wales and southwest England, but many eastern areas of England starting off the day dry and sunny. And as the day goes on, the showers across the west will gradually become a little bit more widespread across the country. Most frequent still in the west. Some of these showers will be heavy and potentially thundery in places, with the best of the brightness throughout the day really over towards the east. Temperatures on Monday down over the weekend, but still reaching around 21 to 22 degrees in the southeast corner. So I think if you are in the sunshine, it won't feel too bad out there. Similar start to the day on Tuesday, lots of sunshine around, but this time we've seen another feature coming in from the southwest. There's some showers breaking out quite quickly across southwest England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Ahead of it, could see a few rogue showers, but mostly dry. And that unsettled regime does look like it will continue Wednesday and Thursday with temperatures around average.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Well, on Friday, I was able to sit down with Reform UK's new head of policy, Zia Yusuf, and here's what he had to say.
Zia Yusuf, let's first of all have your reaction to the reshuffle. Angela Rayner out, David Lammy in as Deputy Prime Minister. The one person who has been safe in this reshuffle has been the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, of whom you have been particularly critical. Is this a missed opportunity for the Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, Rachel Reeves, the fact that he hasn't sacked Rachel Reeves is testament to the utter paucity of talent available to this Prime Minister. I mean, Rachel Reeves has been the architect of the accelerating decline of the British economy. We're seeing our 30-year bond gilts now at multi-decade highs. Britain pays more for debt now to finance its debt than Greece. If you look at the interest payments alone in our national budget, 1 in every 12 pounds of taxpayer spending is now to pay interest. And what has Rachel Reeves done since she became Chancellor? She's she's increased national insurance contributions. It's a tax on jobs. And what happened? There were fewer jobs, right? A lot of people have been taken off the payrolls. She's the inheritance tax rate on farmers, obviously the appalling situation in terms of the winter fuel allowance that they told nobody about. And now, you know, if you look at what's being rumoured, well-sourced rumours about the next budget, her latest harebrained idea, taxing people on their primary residences, something that is, hasn't been known for decades. And then also talking about adding national insurance to rent for landlords. All that's going to do is increase rent prices even more. So one of the criticisms of Rachel Reeves has often been she doesn't get second and third order consequences. This is first order consequences of her decision.
So why has he kept her there? Because she is, according to Ipsos, one of the least popular politicians in the country now.
Yeah. Well,
so what's your theory?
Because this Labour government is utterly devoid of talent. And look, if you want evidence for that, you know, I've said this before. You know, I think we will get an earlier general election than 2029, but you better hold on to your hats because we're going to get something worse than Starmer and worse than Reeves. And look what's happened with Angela Rayner. She's been replaced by David Lammy.
Yes.
I mean, they managed to find the only human being in the country less qualified than Angela Rayner to be the deputy prime minister.
David Lammy isn't here to defend himself, and he will say, unlike you, that he is an elected representative, and therefore at least he has constituents, which you don't, which would be a fair point, wouldn't it?
It would be a point, but anyone go and look at the public utterances of David Lammy for many years. This is a man who insulted President Trump in the most egregious ways, knowing full well there was a meaningful chance to be the next president of the United States. Sure, I'm articulating my opinion.
Right. Are you going to run to be an MP then when the time comes?
I would like to. Yeah.
Could that be 2027 then? What event do you think will precipitate an early general election? We heard this from Nigel Farage in his speech.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine that Labour would right now be turkeys voting for Christmas. So how do you come up with this? It's 2 years before we thought it would be theory.
Well, we're not saying it will be 2027. We're saying we must be prepared for such an eventuality. It would be wrong to not do that, given how many millions of people in the country are placed so much faith and hopes in us doing so. Here's how such a scenario could occur. Number one, look, of course, the way the British system works is that Starmer would have to call such an early election.
He won't do that.
Well, so here's how it could happen. Number one, more stress in the financial markets. So already our 30-year borrowing costs are reaching multi-decade highs. We haven't yet seen the stress in the short-term credit markets, CDSs, shorter duration gilts. That hasn't yet happened. But I worked in the city during the time of the Greek sovereign debt crisis. When that arrives, it's a bit like bankruptcy. You know, it's very gradually, then all at once. One of the things the markets are looking at is whether Britain is going to obey the fiscal rules. You know, the bond markets do not care, Camilla, whether, British kids get good schooling, whether people are struggling. They just care about being paid. And the clue as to what's coming once Rachel Reeves goes, and I think she is on borrowed time, quite literally, is when she started crying on the front bench, regardless of what anyone's view is on that, you saw a big gap down in British bonds. And the reason for that was they were terrified about what might come after her. And sadly, I think Nigel will be the Prime Minister at some point, but I think we're going to see, I think Rachel Reeves is going to be gone reasonably soon. I think Starmer will go reasonably soon after that. I think the people that come after them inside Labour will be way worse, and the markets, there's a real chance of a real big problem for Britain in the bond market.
Let's talk about reform. You're not ready, are you? You're not ready now for 2027?
Well, we are. The amount of work that has already been done and it's in flight is huge. We're working really, really hard. One of the reasons Nigel said that on the stage is because he knows more than anybody that we're going to get one shot at this. The country, the people here at this conference, so much effervescent enthusiasm, despite the appalling state of the country, despite reformers. There's some polling that came out that said 89% of reform voters are extremely pessimistic about the economy over the last couple of years. The word pessimism doesn't come to mind here. It's optimism. Why? Because they have faith that Nigel will get us ready for that. That's the work that we're doing right now.
But you need a load more candidates. So how many more Tories are you going to pick off?
Well, look, I think the first thing to say on that is if you look at what's happened over the last 14 and a half months, we've gone from 14% support in the general election to anywhere between 32 and 35% today, depending on the polls. The majority of that new support has come from people who didn't even vote in the last general election. And if you look at Runcorn and Helsby, where Sarah Pochin brilliantly won that seat, that was a Labour stronghold, not a Tory stronghold. And so, yes, we're going to take probably some people who are Tories. There are some good people there. But we're going to take far, far more people who have never been in politics before. I was on the record yesterday with the Telegraph saying, I think, because Nigel's already said this, in terms of the cabinet, Nigel's first cabinet, if the British people see fit to elect him as Prime Minister, probably about half won't be from the political world. They will be people that we appoint into the Lords who will be people who have achieved great things and achieved excellence in the real world.
But isn't there a contradiction at the heart of the likes of Nadine Dorries, Jake Berry and Andrew Jenkins all being members of Reform now? These were the very people that were in Boris Johnson's government that you have been hypercritical of. If you could blame anyone for squandering a right-leaning majority, then it's Boris Johnson, who presided over record high taxes and record high immigration. So why are you taking on these people?
Well, so number one, you're not going to find any defense of Boris Johnson's record from me.
But Nadine Dorries is like his bestie.
Well, Nadine Dorries was obviously formerly one of Boris's closest allies. What she said on the front page of the Daily Mail this morning, Camilla, the Tory party is dead. The Tory party is dead. And she's also said, to the degree there are people out there still who would say they would vote Tory, and there's a lot fewer than there were, but there are still some, she said, and I quote, "Wake up and smell the coffee. The Tory party is dead." We couldn't agree more with her about that.
Okay. When it comes to your legislative agenda, you've now been put in charge of policy. You're going to have this department for preparing for government. Some of the policies that you're going to enact pretty quickly are going to be quite radical. You're talking about stopping small boats in 2 weeks. That is going to require you to pass some pretty controversial legislation really quickly. You therefore are going to need a super majority, a stonking majority. You can't just scrape through at the next general election. Do you agree? You need big numbers.
Well, I've been saying, I spoke to Chris Hope about 8-10 months ago, and he asked me, how many seats do you think Reform will win at the next election? And I said this not on the basis that it was expected, but this is what we believed was possible. And I said 350 to 400. And he sort of recoiled a bit and said, are you serious? Well, if you look at the latest polls today, and we take nothing for granted, the latest computation of those polls put us close to 400 seats. So yes, we need a serious majority, but it's also important we have a mandate, because Nigel's going to be the most transformative Prime Minister of our lifetimes. unlike this appalling Labour government, they didn't tell anybody about any of what their plans were and then did awfully unpopular things.
Okay.
We are going to tell the British people what we're going to do. We're going to ask them for a mandate, and I think they'll give Nigel that
But there's already some confusion about how many people you're going to deport, because you're saying 288,000. Nigel's saying 500,000 to 600,000. How many people are you deporting? Give us a figure.
Yeah, so
which is it?
So I've been saying consistently that the 288,000 figure is a function of the fact that we're talking about 24,000 detention beds, right? And so what that means is, so the operational plan that we have put together means that our assumption is, and it works on the basis, that nobody would be detained for more than 30 days. That's how you ramp up to 5 flights a day. So what that would allow us to do is have the ability, therefore, that's why we want to have that much detention capacity. So at peak speed, we would be able to deport 288,000.
Yeah.
When in the real world, and there is precedent for this, President Obama, people don't know this, but a lot of people don't know this, President Obama deported 3 million people.
Yes.
He deported 3, he was America's deporter-in-chief.
No, we
And when you look at the numbers,
Guantanamo than some of the Republican
and so when you look at the numbers, they aren't just a straight line. So we've got to be realistic, but we're also very ambitious. We think there's north of 1 million people in the country illegally. We want to have the ability to ramp those deportations to 288,000 every single year. That's why we want 24,000 detention beds.
Quick couple of questions to end with. You're happy to pay the Taliban taxpayers cash?
Camilla, this year, the United Kingdom is going to hand over £151 million of British taxpayers' money. People watching this program, 151 million quid of their money is going to go to Afghanistan in the form of foreign aid.
Okay.
The first thing we're going to do is say, you know what? I think it's reasonable to say that if British taxpayers are giving you that aid, the least you could do is take back your illegal migrants.
All right. And you mentioned Sarah Runcorn earlier, Sarah Pochin earlier, the MP for Runcorn, I should say. She's brought back this debate over banning the burqa. She's told the Telegraph that it isn't in line with British culture and should be banned. Where are you on this? Because this has previously sparked a bit of a row within Reform, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was a false... I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. My personal opinion, and again, it's not formal foreign policy, I was on the record very quickly about that, saying I would support a ban, it's my personal opinion, a ban on all public face coverings. That would include the burqa. Because, listen, Camilla, in a Western liberal democracy... Human interaction, which is critically important, is facial in no small part.
So do you reckon that's going to be in a future Reform manifesto, banning the burqa?
Don't know yet. We'll have to see. But I agree with her on that. But I would also say this. I would also say it's also going to apply to Antifa thugs that face down our supporters and intimidate them when trying to come to our event. And so many people tell us, and this happened to me too, you're walking down the street and on the pavement, somebody's walking towards you, wearing a face covering. What do? You cross the road. And we live in cities in the UK, there's so much CCTV.
Yeah.
So basically, that surveillance is becoming opt-in. And the very people who you probably would want to be surveilled are opting out of it by wearing these masks. So my personal view is we do need to have a ban on public face coverings, and I agree with Sarah.
All right. Zia Yusuf, thank you very much indeed for joining me at the Reform Conference in Birmingham.
Thanks for having me.
That was Reform UK's Head of Policy, Zia Yusuf. 2 quick observations on that. First of all, the statement that Nigel Farage might have a cabinet made up of half people from the Lords, unelected, is quite controversial. Second of all, what was going on with my makeup there? This is why I have a makeup artist, folks, called Camilla, also called Camilla, in this studio. I do apologise, I look slightly ghost-like there because I'd done my own foundation.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's quite a changeable picture across the Mediterranean over the next couple of days. Plenty of sunny spells on offer, but there is going to be some quite strong winds across parts of the Canaries as we head through Monday afternoon. Parts of Spain and Portugal, parts of Italy seeing plenty of sunny spells, but southern parts of France, parts of Greece and parts of Turkey seeing plenty of heavy showers through Monday afternoon. Quite a lot of sunshine on offer as we go through the rest of the week and feeling pleasantly warm with highs into the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's a bit of a royal reunion now because joining me is Valentine Lowe, former royal correspondent of The Times and author of this new book, which I have to point to this camera, Power and the Palace. The subject is the inside story of the monarchy and 10 Downing Street. You and I have spent many a day together behind a rope, haven't we?
Haven't we just? Usually raining, I think.
Usually raining, usually freezing cold with the notebook, trying to extract any information and scoops that we can. This is your second book after, well, on royals. I know you've written books on gardening and things, but second books after the highly successful Courtiers. And there's a couple of very good news lines in this, Val. First of all, the revelation that when she was a young woman, Queen Camilla was groped and fought off her assailant with a high-heeled shoe. Tell us more.
That's right. She was on a train. She's a teenage schoolgirl, pretty young, and she was on a train going to, I think, Paddington, and someone started groping her. We don't know exactly what happened, but she told this to Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London, and obviously Boris was astonished and said, "What did you do?" And she said, "Well, I did what my mother taught me. I took the shoe off and whacked him in the nuts with a heel," which is just amazing. But in a way, what I love most about the story, as well as that, which shows great strength and robustness on the part of the young Camilla, But when she got to Paddington, she found a man in uniform, reported it, and the bloke was arrested, which shows presence of mind, strength of character, and sort of civic responsibility.
What year was this?
Well, she was a teenager. We don't know precisely how old.
Some point in the 70s or
60s, more like
60s.
60s, yeah.
I know, I love the idea of A, finding a copper in close proximity, and B, actually getting them to act on it.
I know, wonderful.
But it does speak to, also, it's like kind of like the royal trooper status. The story reminded me a little bit of Princess Anne in the kidnapping. Not bloody likely, you know,
exactly.
She fought off the man trying to capture her. The other sensational scoop in this, and you and I may have a disagreement about this now, we may, OK, is that you're claiming that the late Queen Elizabeth II was a Remainer. And I'm saying recollections may vary on that. Why? You give me your case for her being a Remainer, and I'll give you my case for her being a Brexiteer.
My case is that during the Brexit referendum, about 3 months before the referendum, she was talking to a minister and she said, I don't think we should leave the EU. And when they spoke about it further, she said, better the devil you know. So I'm saying that she was a reluctant Remainer. I'm not saying she was a flag-waving Remainer. No. I think she had criticisms of the EU. I think she found the bureaucracy exasperating. But it's not just... I mean, that obviously is the strongest evidence we have that she was a Remainer. Yes. There are other things... You know, I spoke to someone who knew the Queen well and said it was kind of just part of her world view, that she thought the EU represented cooperation between nations after the war.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, there's completely... Like, the theory stacks up in the sense of she observed her father, George VI, very close relationship with Winston Churchill, who was one of the architects of sort of peace in Europe after the Second World War. She was a fluent French speaker, so she was a bit of an Anglophile, a Europhile in that regard. We had that famous episode of her wearing the blue hat with the yellow stars, and was it on purpose to show support for the EU, or was it just her dresser Angela Kelly having some fun? Having said that, we did have the now disputed and indeed legal report of Michael Gove revealing that she had expressed Brexit sentiments at a dinner. And I was always told by sources close to the royals that both she and the Duke of Edinburgh were very Brexity, but that perhaps the King, then Prince Charles, and his son Prince William were quite Remainerish.
I think these sources saying the Queen was pretty Brexity are reflecting her scepticism about the EU, which I'm absolutely not denying. I think she was pretty sceptical about a lot of the EU. And, you know, that quote in the famous Sun article of 2016 where she said, I don't understand the European Union, I'm sure that's true. I don't dispute that for 1 second. But I think when it came to the push, should we get out, I think she didn't want the tumult of change.
Well, she was a conflict avoider, and she didn't like change, and she had a lot of continuity in her own life about how she behaved, and handbags, haircuts and all the rest of it. Having said that, her beloved Commonwealth, she felt had been pushed on the back burner by our relationship with the EU, and would have loved the idea of us kind of reconnecting with the likes of India, New Zealand, Australia, Canada.
Yes, she certainly would, but I think not at the cost of blowing up our relationships with Europe.
OK, fair enough. Let's move on to talk about the Duchess of Kent. Now, I know she doesn't necessarily feature in this book, but it's worth mentioning her and her legacy. She passed away on Friday, or at least it was announced that she had passed away on Friday at the age of 92, the oldest member of the royal family following the death of the late Queen. I mean, I did quite a lot of work on her in recent years, and I interviewed her a few years ago, and she was quite a complex figure, really. She suffered from mental health problems after she lost a baby. She converted to Catholicism. But what's interesting in relation to perhaps Brexit, which you've written about extensively, is she did this thing of saying, I don't want to be a royal anymore. I want to go and have a much more background role. And then she ends up teaching music at a school in Hull where no one even knows she's royal.
I know, it's fascinating. And, of course, you couldn't get away with that now because social media, people with phones, she would have been rumbled a long time earlier. But I think it shows why the whole Brexit thing was such a tragedy, because she showed how you could get out of the whole royal world seamlessly, easily, peacefully, and go and do something else. And, you know, she took care to ask the Queen if she could do this, and the Queen said yes, and quietly went and did it, pursued her passion. And it just shows that, you know, Harry and Meghan, if they'd pursued their aims in a different way, they could have achieved what they wanted, but, you know, amicably.
Yes, and we hear that the King is going to attend her funeral, which will be a Catholic Mass, First time a monarch's going to do that in 400 years or something. But again, the late Queen completely supported her conversion, purely out of respect, one woman of God to another, but that's the direction that she wanted to go in. But she didn't have her HRH status. Again, similarities with the whole Meghan and Harry wanting to do things differently.
And of course, it was a law passed by Parliament, but I think it was done with the agreement of the Queen. When the Succession to the Crown Act came in, that allowed members of the royal family to marry Catholics.
Yes. And maybe that was following a discussion with the Duchess of Kent. Perhaps we don't know. Perhaps we don't know. Right, we've talked about Brexit, Harry and Meghan. You famously broke the story of the bullying dossier that was handed to palace authorities. Jason Knauf, who had previously worked for both the Sussexes and the Cambridges, as they were then known, William and Kate, flagged Meghan's bad behaviour. It's disputed by the couple, and the rest is very much history, post-Oprah and Netflix. We now have Harry coming to the UK this week.
Yeah.
He's going to attend the Well Child Awards and do a couple of other jobs. We've got a story in the Sunday Times, your old sister paper, by somebody else we know very well from the Royal Beat, Roya Nickar, suggesting Harry's hope is still to bring his family home to Britain and to reunite with the King. What's your view on all this?
Well, I think it's fascinating. What's interesting is the things the article doesn't say is that it says he would like to come here more often and he would like to bring his family. It doesn't say what Meghan wants.
No.
I think Meghan might have a slightly different view. Interesting, the article quotes a friend of Harry saying he intends to have fun in Britain this week. I don't think
he's not having fun in Montecito, Val.
Well, no, I think the contrast is more. I don't think he's had fun in Britain for a very long time.
I mean, it's interesting to see, Meghan has not visited the UK since September 2022. But this week, the diary's quite full. We're back into kind of regular royal engagements. Is the King going to carve out any time for Harry, do you think, Val? What's your suspicion?
I don't know. The article sort of slightly dials down hopes on that.
Yes.
I have thought probably, I can't say I've got great inside information, but my gut instinct is, look, Harry wants it. Charles would love to make family relations better. So I think,
William, not so much.
William, not so much. But the other interesting thing about the article is that it quotes a friend of Harry saying that vis-a-vis this so-called peace summit, which wasn't a peace summit a few weeks ago, which seemed to be about deconflicting diaries, this friend says, this source rather, says that Harry is no longer a member of the institution, so doesn't see a need to deconflict his diary with the institution.
Well, there you are then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Looking ahead to the new working week, and it's going to be unsettled. Most of us seeing some further rain and showers, and after a warm weekend for some of us, temperatures are returning to nearer average. So we have low pressure really dominating the scene as we end the weekend. Still got some dry weather down towards the far southeast, but most of us seeing some showers. As the night goes on, showers generally becoming confined to western and northern parts of the UK, and quite a windy night to come across the very far northeast of Scotland. Where we do see the clearer skies, it will turn a little bit cooler than the night just gone, but I think most towns and cities still staying in double figures. So we start Monday off with plenty of sunshine across many parts of the UK. Still got the overnight rain just clearing Shetland, but for most of Scotland it should be dry. But showers will quickly develop across the west of Scotland. Also similar story for Northern Ireland. A few showers in the west, but mostly dry as we start Monday morning. Showers also moving in across parts of Wales and southwest England, but many eastern areas of England starting off the day dry and sunny. And as the day goes on, the showers across the west will gradually become a little bit more widespread across the country. Most frequent still in the west. Some of these showers will be heavy and potentially thundery in places, with the best of the brightness throughout the day really over towards the east. Temperatures on Monday down over the weekend, but still reaching around 21 to 22 degrees in the southeast corner. So I think if you are in the sunshine, it won't feel too bad out there.
Similar start to the day on Tuesday, lots of sunshine around, but this time we've seen another feature coming in from the southwest. There's some showers breaking out quite quickly across southwest England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Ahead of it, could see a few rogue showers, but mostly dry. And that unsettled regime does look like it will continue Wednesday and Thursday with temperatures around average.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time.